Hello, I'm Chrissy Seaton and welcome to my channel. You know, identity is very important. It's important to know who we are and how we identify and subsequently behave is what defines us as an individual and as a group or as a group of individuals. Now, all of that then translates into a collective body with a collective set of values and principles and guidelines, belief systems, and or the lack thereof. And this is how society evolves. So along with that, of course, is the birth of certain cultures, their strengths and their weaknesses, and it's an identity. It becomes an identity. Now that can be on a global scale or it can be on an individual community scale, however you want to group it together. Now, there is confusion often at times about the Noahide identity, and I want to just clear that up today. And also I'm going to put some links in the description box below to a couple of other videos I've done previously that tie in with this as well. And if you haven't already seen those, you may find those helpful in lining up with this video as well. So let's talk about and narrow down on our Noahide identity. Now, we're talking about Gentiles, as some people say B'nai Noah, about non-Jews. And let's just get very clear from the beginning that we are not Jews. So I want to impress upon you that Jewish rituals do not automatically transfer over to a Noahide identity. Now, while there may be, there's certainly similarities. We all believe in the God of the Torah, etc., and we have commandments which we follow, and there are similarities, there is no doubt. However, our practices are different. There are certain commandments that Jews must follow that don't apply to Noahides. So when we say we have similarities to the Jewish faith, but our Noahide practices may vary according to who you are learning from or where you learn from. And that's the crux of today's video. So let's talk about practice variances. So what I want to explain here is that halachically sound teachings and correct observances, or is it deceptive teaching and observance confusion? So you've got two branches there. So you've got what is sound and correct rabbinical advice and instruction, learned advice and instruction, or you can learn from areas that contain teachings that are not only deceptive, but they can be damaging as well, and that thereby arises this confusion that there is among certain Noahide groups and or individuals. So, well, we may ask ourselves is how do we ensure that we are taught and instructed correctly? Well, I'm going to give you just a few ideas here, which again, I have made other videos in regard to these matters, but I just felt it was timely to do another video upon this idea of identity confusion, practice confusion within Noahides and Noahide groups. So let's look at the question of rabbis. Now, we need to have available for, especially for a group or a body of Noahides, they need to be attached to a suitably qualified rabbi who has knowledge, a very good knowledge of the 7 Noahide laws and their application to Noahide lifestyle and individuals. Now, that is most important. And to give you some quick references, the website or the organisation that I always recommend, especially if you are just new to learning about Noahide laws and lifestyle, or just very beginnings of it, you've left another religion, which many of you have, and then you're grabbing at anything that says Noahide or something like that, and without knowledge of how it can be confusing. So my advice is your first stop should be an organisation called asknoah.org. And on my website, I have linked all the recommendations that I have there for authentic rabbis that teach the correct application of our laws and practices. So, and that's under the guidance of Rabbi Dr. Michael Schulman, who I know personally, and I trust him and his associates. I trust. I know that I'm getting the correct information and guidance. Now, that website's invaluable because there's so much free stuff on it you can just read or download. There's recommended books, other links that are helpful for Noahides. And you can be assured that if you go to that website and that organisation, that you're going to be taught the correct information as opposed to deceptive sometimes information, or certainly information that's not grounded in Halakha truth, etc. So that's the first stop, and you'll get sound teachings and advice there. It's asknoah.org. Now, I want to caution you because how shall I say? My advice would be, if you come across individuals or organisations, groups of Noahides that say, we don't need rabbis, we can manage ourselves, we can teach ourselves. Well, to some degree, there's an element of truth in that. We can't expect rabbis to be bottle feeding us the whole time. I understand that. And I understand that also, not every rabbi is conversant with the application and the teaching of the 7 Noahide laws. So granted, there's an element of truth in that. To say we don't need them, I think is a gross mistake. Yes, we definitely need to have at our fingertips, to have available a rabbi, suitably qualified rabbi in the Noahide laws that we can at least touch base with when we have a concern or there's a question, we can't make a decision about something. You've got to have that sound base to go back to, and there's no getting out of that. And that is why I always recommend asknoah.org. They have been looking after Noahides for a very, very long time, many years now. They've stood the test of time. I've met the people that are associated with asknoah.org, their track record is excellent. And that to me is not something I loosely say about people. It's because I've dealt with them and I understand their teachings are correct and authentic that I highly recommend that organisation. So back to this, how shall I say, tossing around of we don't need a rabbi, we've got to be responsible for ourselves. Well, yes, we have to be responsible for ourselves, but along with that, we have to be responsible who we're learning from and know that we can track that back to an authoritative rabbi or rabbinical body that can keep us on track. Now, these same individuals or groups that tout that we don't need rabbis, we've got to take control of everything ourselves, However, they're not too worried to trot out, how shall I say, some questionable authorities that they deem as an authority on Noahide laws. Now, these can even be rogue rabbis, and I'm sorry to say, there are a few out there. They're not exactly who they say they are. So when they want to make a point to prove their point or back up or give themselves credibility, let's say, to give the group or the individual credibility, they trot these so-called authorities out. And let me tell you, some of those so-called authorities are pretty much left of centre on a lot of things. I've had time to look into a lot of them, and they've often giving, at the very least, they're giving confusing information to Noahides or those interested in the Noahide laws, and at other times they are deliberately misleading people. And that's they're giving them false information, or they're massaging the truth and extending it. This business, I'll just give you a common example, is saying there are some out there that say we can practice the Sabbath just like the Jews do. Well, we can't. It's as simple as that. There's lots of things we can acknowledge in the Jewish faith, but acknowledging it and understanding it does not mean we have permission to practice it, because that's stealing from the Jews. And to say that we can practice the Sabbath in the same way the Jews do is absolutely false and incorrect. We don't. We don't practice it the way the Jews do. In fact, we don't have to do anything on the seventh day. We can just go about our business and do whatever it is we have to do without any special procedures or anything. But I have mentioned that in previous video. So, being aware and cautious of these opinions that are out there, that brings me back to the point 4 again that I mentioned about make sure that whatever group or organisation you're in, you have access to a suitably qualified and knowledgeable rabbi in relation to matters of Noahide laws and practices. I can't stress that enough. And I want to just say also that, our spiritual well-being and authentic Noahide identity, it does rest on accurate rabbinical teachings. We have to understand that. You can't just massage everything and think, oh, this is a good idea, we'll pull that in, that sounds good, we'll wrap it up and tie a bow on it, and that's how we're going to run the show, or that's how our group's going to operate. No, it must be backed up. You must be able to show the evidence, so to speak. It's all very well for a rabbi or a Noahide authority to read certain things. Oh, we studied it, we saw this in the Mishnah, we saw this in the Talmud. They're interpreting placing their opinion into a lot of things, because there's so many layers to, how shall I say, understanding and interpreting these writings. And it's very easy for false teachings to come out of that. So your spiritual well-being, along with your Noahide identity, is critical. And it is important that you're learning from the right people or organisations, that you have trust in them, And it's not coming from an individual or a group that have these fanciful musings and opinions that, you know, have dubious backgrounds, etc. So, and we've seen this happen before, so history does repeat itself. So my advice, and my sincere advice, is that you, as an individual, be very vigilant who you learn from, and follow the links that I've placed down in the description box to a couple of other videos that I've previously done. That'll give you a bit of added information. But you must not just believe everything everyone tells you. Check it out. Ask someone else. And as I said, always, it has to pass the test of asknoah.org, so to speak. You need to just go back to that, and you can always post a question and things like that there. So please don't foolishly believe some of these things that you're told. If it sounds foreign and it doesn't sound quite right, or you think that goes against what you've already been taught or understood, you need to get to the bottom of it. And the place to go for that, you're going to get an unbiased answer or instruction if you go to asknoah.org. That's the first stop. I mean, there's others. I'm not saying that's the only organisation. I know there's some others that are very good, but it just that asknoah.org's been around forever and a day. It's been there, it's done that, and it has all the advice and a lot of free information on there that you can read at your leisure or download, etc. So, in the meantime, please subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment, tick the like button, and please take care, and God bless.